Heidi ho, everyone, and welcome aboard. It is Wednesday, yes, hump day, halfway through the month of July. How the heck that happens, I will never know. But it goes as fast as you can possibly count and even faster. Thank you for joining us. It is Jeff with you without Ash. Ash, of course, having his break. We're having a break this week and next, and you've got to put up with me for the next 2 weeks. Well, not quite 2 weeks now, a week and a half. And I'll be joined by various people from the Actions to Wealth team. And today it will be Chloe. And my very, very great thanks to Chloe and Lloyd for taking the show through yesterday, where I was stuck. Actually, got back to Hobart in time for the show, having travelled from Sydney. But the biosecurity that I was, I say forced to go through. And I'm very pleased that that is the case because it does keep us safe here in Tassie from that dreadful, dreadful virus that everybody is sick to death of, I'm sure. Probably not the best choice of words, I must say, but very, very sick of it. And unfortunately, there is no light at the end of the tunnel just yet. That said, there are indications that there are people now being tested with a potential vaccine. Maybe that's a good. Well, that is a good thing, obviously, but I wouldn't like to be one of those people. I've just got a little issue here I need to fix, and that is that I'm hearing myself back, and I don't want to do that. So I'll just kill that version of YouTube. There we go. So now we're clear and 100% ready to go. As I said, Chloe joining me very, very shortly, and we will go through all things that she looks at in a day. And actually, I haven't heard of
already,
Chloe.
Jeff.
Oh, there's Chloe there. Hello.
How's
How
it
the
going?
look? I'm pretty good.
Oh, we have missed you.
I've missed you guys. Absolutely have. Terrible business that you have to go through once in your life only, and well, not over yet, I suppose. Mum's still hanging on, and that's not such a good thing, given that she's 92 and not in the best of health. So we'll just stay posted on that and see how we go. But I did get to spend some very good quality time with her, and in her lucid moments, it was rather good, I must say. So the trip was definitely not wasted.
Good.
I've got to place the pound breakout trade before we go any further, and then we'll come to you because, as always, I don't trade the first candle of London session apart from this breakout. And we will have a chat to you and see what's going on in the wonderful world of trend trading. Righto, what have we got? So let me put the EA on here so that what have I got? Number one here. I've never had number one here before. I don't know if you guys can see number one, but I can. Pain in the bum. Okay,
I can't see your screen at all yet, Jeff.
That's not good. Okay, let me try again in the famous words of Francis Sinatra. Well, that's not working either. Okay, come hither. Control panel. Screen one. Share. That should make a difference.
Got it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Now we've got to go back and change this because we've gone beyond the candle. So we'll call that start bar number one. And that will give me the parameters that we need. Righto, guys. So the entry for the buy is going to be at 1.2614. So 1.2614 is your buy price. The stop loss for the buy is 1.2556. And of course, the sell will be the reverse of that at 1.2556 for your entry price. And the stop loss for that will be at 1.2614. Now I'll just very quickly place that order before I go any further. It has happened that I've forgotten to do that, and it's generally the times when it goes 1-2%. So let's not do that. buying at 1.2614. That doesn't look like 1.2614 to me. What's going on? There you go. Stop loss, 1.2556. And we'll place that. And now the sell. Let me get rid of that trade line. It's no longer valid anyway. For the sell, we will go exactly the reverse. So sell stop. $1.2556. And the stop loss for that is 1.2614. If there's anybody who doesn't understand the rules of how we're trading this at the moment, just stick your hand up or shout out in the chat box and I will take you through it. And let me see who is in the chat box. Hi, Swee. Ash is, I don't know if Ash is having a lovely time. I think he is. He keeps offering to come back in. I tell him to go away. G'day, Dennis. Hi, YY. How are you? G'day, Helen. Yeah, look, I did make it home, but gee, it took a while to get through biosecurity, I've got to say. And that's, as I said, also is not a bad thing, but it took over an hour to get out of the airport. And that was the time I was supposed to be in here, of course. So yeah, pain in the backside. Shukri, how you doing? Swee, hi. G'day, Lewis. And I think we've said g'day to everybody who's in the room at the moment or who has said hello. Hi, Sino. Do I think there is a slingshot short on Euro Aussie on M30 or H1? Well, again, Sino, I'll repeat, I don't trade the first candle of London session, but absolutely I'll give you my woo, like H4, the way that's working out. So I'm looking for that. H1. Yeah, 92 is a very good innings, Helen. That's the fact. Okay. Let me see. H1. Possibly. And you'd be probably looking at this and anticipating that to be a break, not a break, but an approach and a pullback. And I like the way you're thinking. Let me tighten that up a bit, probably look a bit better. There. See, I like it. What don't I like about it is the question. And as always, it's the don't likes that are probably more important to me than the likes. Here are the likes. The likes are we've broken above, well, let's call it the monthly pivot double pump. So we've got above it again after having come back below it. Now we're below it, but we're below it with even more purpose, one would think. Here's what I don't like, and we've come back below this trade line. Now, this trade line is not relevant to an hourly chart. It is relevant to a daily chart, probably relevant to a 4-hour chart as well. Yes, it is, and that's the one I saw. Go back there. But we don't tend to trade hourly setups off 4-hour or daily trend or / trade lines. So what we do is get rid of that, take it out of our mind and put it on daily. Probably work on it, works on a 4-hour too, doesn't it? Yep. But it doesn't work on a 30-minute or hourly chart. There's another thing I don't like too much, and that would be that level right there. So we're trading bang on that level, bang at support, double support. So there's a confluence there. But there's another thing that I don't like about this, guys, and you've been with me long enough to know what that is. And I want you to put in the chat box, hi SF, if you wouldn't mind, what I don't like, apart from those two things that I pointed out to you, what I don't like about going short here right now. Just going to let you ponder that for a bit. So the short answer, of course, is no. I don't like a short at the moment, but I may like a short a little bit later. So has anybody got the answer to my question? Why wouldn't I want to go short now, apart from the fact that we're at support and we're at a confluence of support? There is another very, very important reason why I wouldn't go short at the moment. Nailed it, Crystal. Nailed it, Lewis. Awesome. That's why we do not like to trade away from an untested daily pivot. And I'm sure I've given you the reason many, many times before. The highest probability on this chart at the moment is that sometime today, no idea when, we will get a test of the daily pivot. That doesn't mean it's going to happen now. It could come to the weekly pivot first and then go bang, absolutely. But if we're trading against that probability factor, then we're trading at low probability by definition, yeah? So therefore, we just give that one a miss until we get a better scenario. Now, the 4-hour chart, if I have a quick squiz at that, looks pretty amazing also, this time as a false break of the trade line. Now, here's the thing. If we got a test of the daily pivot with this bar, which has got nearly 2 hours left, then that would validate that scenario. Would it be tradable is the question. And the answer would be probably not, because you've then got a 75 pip candle to about a 34. That's not so bad. 34, say half to one for a TP1. Okay, I'd consider that. But again, you've still got to consider this level that we're at, and it's quite substantial. And I don't know that I'd really like to go there, to be honest. I'm not saying it can't, but I think the odds are stacked against us, to be fair. Yes, I'd agree with that, Sino. If you are intent on going short, or if you are short at the moment and you haven't taken profit here at this support level, then definitely you want to be taking some profit at the weekly pivot, which has also got some horizontal history to it as well. But am I on your side as far as bias is concerned? Yes, I am, absolutely. I'm biased short Euro Aussie, but I just can't jump in here. Now, let's go back to scenario number one. And what I said before is absolutely true. We do not like to trade away from the daily pivot. However, if this wasn't here, if this level wasn't here, so we didn't have the confluence of support, I would probably have a crack at that if one thing was possible, and that would be to take profit before the low here, because that's the low of the day. So it's another bad, cross against this trade. You wouldn't want to take that because of that, unless you can take profit before it. And your risk would be in the vicinity, forget this candle, the risk would be 25 pips. Your potential reward is, 6-ish, and you've got to get through that by the spreads. It ain't going to be easy. So in the wash up, it's a tough position to take. Not impossible, but really tough. And if you did take that on without a daily pivot test, you'd want to reduce your risks, by a factor of, no more than 0.25% and probably less. So is it worth it? My answer to that is no. I wouldn't want to be entering here. If you're already short and got it up here somewhere, happy days. But to go short now, I don't think is a wise move from a probability point of view. Okay, has the pound been triggered? Answer no. So that's all good. We're clear. We can't go any further with the slingshot until the second 30-minute candle of the day, which is upcoming in 20 minutes from now. In the meantime, Chloe, apart from Bali, I don't think we've ever sat together at UK Open. Is that a good time for you?
I think you're right, Jeff. I don't think we have. Is it a good time for me? Good question. At the moment, no, because I'm not an early riser at the moment.
You're what, sorry?
I'm not an early riser at the moment.
But you need some practice, Chloe, because it's not that far away where you have very little choice.
No, Jeff. No. Everyone keeps telling me that, and I keep saying this little one is going to sleep nicely and never
Perfect.
wake me up. I'm
As long as
convinced.
you're happy to go to bed at 4 in the morning and get up at 9, you'll be okay.
Yeah. But usually, yeah, I don't necessarily trade at the UK Open, but what I like to do is be prepared beforehand. Usually have my orders already placed and set up beforehand if there is anything setting up, or I just leave it a little bit and trade shortly after. So yeah, around about this time is a really good time for intraday trading.
I tend to dismiss
currency
the
pairs.
first candle, and the reason I tend to dismiss the first candle is based absolutely on experience, and most of them bad, because I tend to see quite often that the early move isn't sustained. In fact, it is reversed oftentimes. I'm not saying all times, but it just seems to be the times when I want to trade it, Chloe. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you find that's the case?
Do you know,
Because
I
you'd
haven't.
be trading on the smaller time frames at this time of day, I would imagine.
Yeah, but as I say, if I'm trading on the smaller time frames, I tend to either have, well, I mean, by smaller, I mean hourly time frame, I would tend to have everything set up beforehand,
Yeah,
possibly even from the night before. And smaller time frames, I'm a bit like you, Jeff. I wouldn't wait for the whole candle, the whole hour to go by. But certainly I would never place a 15-minute trade on the UK Open, much the same as I would never place a 15-minute trade during NFP or during any major, news releases
sure.
or anything like that. But really, for me, it's just a case of letting the volatility die down a bit so that I can get, because my aim is always to try and get in on a reasonably small sized candle so that I can get a good reward to risk. So what I don't want to be doing is trading a massive candle if the open moves the market in a big way, then I don't want to be trading that candle because it's gonna give me an insufficient reward to risk. But I will trade from kind of 15 minutes after the open onwards.
Cool. What do you got? You got anything for us at the moment that you're absolutely dying to get into, or see that is a
Absolutely
must trade?
dying.
Not quite dying.
Not quite
How
dying.
about mild interest then?
A mild interest in quite a few things. I'm getting the hang of this Zoom thing, I think,
Yeah, look, it's got its
It's
little
taken me a while,
foibles, I
but
must say, but it's not such a bad thing.
yeah.
Guys, I
So,
will have a look at those other things when I come back. No problem.
all right. So, those of you who've been listening to me over the last few days and week or so with Ash as well, will probably know by now that my style is to start off with the daily timeframes. Even though I do trade lower timeframes, I always like to take my direction from the daily. I'm going to start here with dollar yen simply because on the daily time frame, I can't actually take a good direction from this. This is just ranging price action here. So I'm definitely not trading it on the daily time frame. As a trend trader, that just would be the absolute wrong thing to do. And I would barely be able to get it down to this level, if at all. So what I will do is take direction from the daily and then go down to the lower time frames and see if I can pick anything up. And the direction for me on the daily at the moment, given that our most recent test of where I have put my range has been to the upside, my anticipation is that that then potentially could go all the way to the bottom of the range down here. We're somewhere in the middle at the moment, so I'm still thinking bearish. It's not strongly bearish enough for me to trade it on the daily. But I've also got the weekly pivot just here. Yesterday's daily bar was just about a high test bar. It's a doji bar, really, pretty indecisive, but it's got a long tail at the top, suggesting perhaps a lower high and perhaps that price wants to push down lower. So my thoughts are that if price manages to get below the weekly pivot, then that is going to be my area that I'll be looking to trade. Also on the hourly time frame, there's a pretty nice head and shoulders pattern here. So we've got the left hand shoulder here, the head up here, right hand shoulder here. The neckline isn't far off this weekly pivot. So all I'm going to be doing is waiting for this weekly pivot to break and then hoping for a retest of that. And that can be on any time frame. I could be patient and wait for the hourly time frame. Perhaps that price action might work out really nicely, but I think more likely I'm going to be looking at the 15-minute time frame here, and I'm going to be waiting for the weekly pivot to break and then waiting for a retest of that weekly pivot and then looking for a short opportunity. And that means that even if I were to just trade down to the next major low, which would be around about this point here, I'm likely to have a pretty decent reward to risk on that. So, you know, if I enter on a 15-minute candle around here, it looks like it could be at least a 4-to-1 reward to risk. So while I'm reluctant to trade in ranges, if I can find trend within ranges on a lower time frame, then absolutely that's fine to trade. So from a chart looking pretty rubbish on a daily time frame, that doesn't necessarily mean that there is nothing to trade on a higher time frame, but it absolutely does mean that I still will look at the daily time frame to get my overall direction, which is exactly what I've done here. And then if that trade were to run through this previous low over here, the bottom of that range all the way down here, it sits around about the monthly S1. That really would be a positive reward to risk trade. So that's something that I am imminently looking out for. It looks like the weekly pivot is likely to give way and price is likely to push down. I do have to wait for that retracement though, because at the moment this move has, in terms of a 15-minute move, this move is fairly long in the tooth. So I don't want to enter and then have price retrace. I really want to wait for that price retracement first and then enter when it's the right time to do so. So that is, dollar yen is high up on my intraday trading list for today.
It's a beast of a thing. Can you just send me an email or something when you find a good trade on that bloody thing?
Do you know what, Jeff? It has been a beast, hasn't it?
It is a beast. Absolutely.
And I will admit I have been wrong on dollar yen a few times over the course of the last couple of months. It's just been all over the place. It's been in one range after another after another. I mean, you can just see all of this price action here is just very, very rangy. But at some point that's not going to continue. At some point it will break out of the range and it will start to trend again. I don't think it's yet, but trading on the lower time frame is on dollar yen, I think, my way forward at the moment. But I don't regularly trade this. I had a pop at it. I had a pop at it over here, and I at the time thought it was going to break down and head all the way down to pretty much 100. So I was wrong about that, and since then it's just been ranging sideways, which is fine. At some point, perhaps it will break down and head all the way down there. And
because it does,
yeah, exactly.
But the timing is everything with this thing. It's just a beast, and I've got a long setup right now, and I sack it every week or so. I go, no, not going to trade this again for a while, and then I get a classic setup, and I think, okay, just a little bit. We'll see. I'll get to that a bit later.
Yeah, it has been tricky, but I think a lot of currency pairs have been tricky over the last almost couple of months, really. The trends have been pretty modest, and they haven't been going on as long as I would have liked to have seen. So I've changed my style a little bit, and rather than letting trades run, I'm taking profit early, scaling out early, and then at least having free trades running so that if price doesn't end up trending the way I want it to, I'm not losing anything. And that's a big change to the way I normally trade, because the way I normally trade is really to pick a trade that I like and let it run as far as I can. But that just hasn't been really working out for me the last couple of months. So I'm changing things up a bit to roll with the punches.
Needs must, Chloe. Absolutely, and I agree 100%. I think that my newfound, well, it's not new anymore, but it's been 12 months or so since I found this new way to make more pips, if you like, not necessarily, well, yes, more dollars as well, has really been tested over the last, well, let's call it COVID tested, because that seems to be the case, where the market is so, I'll say jittery, because I think that's probably the word. Uncertain is another. Frightened is another. So there are many ways to describe it, but I think, as you said, the follow-throughs are fewer and definitely far between than we are used to seeing. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head. Get something in the bank and get safe, far quicker than you would normally do.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to tell you, Jeff, it is not often that I change my trading style. So
no, I have noticed that.
This is maybe the first time in more than 5 years that I've actually changed up the way that I trade. So yeah, needs must. And onwards and upwards. The Aussie pairs, everyone will know that I was looking at these last week, still looking at them. I know a lot of people think that these Aussie pairs have run far enough and they're due to pull back and move downwards and whatever, but I will trade with the trend unless I see a reason not to. And again, on the daily time frame, I've kind of put a stop to the trend trading because there just isn't enough reward to risk in this anymore. But that doesn't stop me on the lower time frame. So yesterday, I got into a 4-hourly, a 4-hourly trade on Aussie yen. And I did say at the time, sorry, I'm just going to have to clear my throat properly. I did say at the time that I was heading towards these previous highs. So this is a horizontal resistance level that I've picked on the daily time frame, which is the reason I'm not trading this on the daily time frame. But again, if I do still believe that this is in an uptrend, if this level breaks, then I've got further space to the upside up until this next horizontal level, which on the daily time frame is neither here nor there. It might get me, 1%, if that. But on a lower time frame, again, that could be a nice 4-to-1 or 5-to-1, even better trade. So I have got in on the 4-hourly time frame, and the 4-hourly trade that I got in was just on this low test bar here, basically based on the fact that it's a bounce from monthly pivot, weekly pivot, bundle of moving averages here. There's a nice area of confluence. The price action is pretty rubbish. It's not very nicely trending price action. So again, under normal circumstances, I just wouldn't trade this. I would just move on. But I saw the potential for price to come up to this horizontal level, which was a 1-to-1 reward to risk. And I decided I was going to take half of the trade off at that point, which I have done. That means I'm now in a free trade. So if price comes back down and hits my stop loss, no big deal. I'll move on to the next opportunity. If price retraces and then moves off again, and especially if it manages to break through this horizontal level, which based on the trend on the daily time frame, even though there is a bit of a level here, price action is actually still bullish and still pushing up against this level. So there is a chance that it could break. And if that happens, then I'm going to be making my profit there. So that's another thing I've been looking out for. And I will continue to do so. I won't be scaling into this position because while it is break even, it's not in profit. So I won't be scaling in just yet. But I do have a higher low here and I have a higher high. So if price does retrace on this particular position, and if it comes to an area that gives me another higher low, then that could give me another entry opportunity. The problem with that entry opportunity is I won't be able to get it to break even before this horizontal level. So that's a calculated risk that I'll have to take at the time. But that's something else that I'm looking out for. And then Aussie dollar is another one. I've just entered, or I entered early this morning, a new position on Aussie dollar. So I'm now in 2 positions on Aussie dollar, having made the first position safe by moving my stop loss. And again, it is struggling here, which is why I'm not continuing to pile in on the daily time frame. But if price can push through this level here, then we've got at least up to that next horizontal level, which on a lower time frame, probably looking at maybe an hourly time frame, probably not 15-minute time frame, because of that price action there doesn't look so good. But one of the lower time frames I'm going to be aiming to get in on, depending on support. And let's have a look. This would be the level somewhere around about here. It's very difficult to give an exact level because there's so much choppiness around this, because it has been ranging for the last week or so. But around this level that price has pulled back to, I'm pretty interested in seeing if price can bounce at this level and continue upwards. And again, if I were to get into this again, it would be at absolutely minimum risk, because it's kind of, you know, I would have liked to have seen clear, clean price action break through this level and then go on again. And this lower high here has kind of put me off somewhat. But that's something else that I am looking out for. CAD Swiss I mentioned yesterday. I believe I mentioned it yesterday.
You're like me. Which show am I in?
I can't remember. I've been doing quite a few shows this week, and all the various ones, I forget what I say at each. But I believe I probably would have mentioned this yesterday because of the high test bar that we saw here from the day before. So I am headed to the downside in terms of where I think price might go next. Again, it's such a rubbish chart. It's really rangy and rubbishy. So I'm literally just taking my direction from this high test bar here and looking to see if there are any opportunities short. So that could be another option. At the moment on the 4-hourly, we do have a seller bar forming. So that could be an option. If I enter this, it would be, sorry, I don't know why I'm so croaky this morning. It's just too early for me, I think. Could be an option for trading short and potentially looking at the daily pivot, perhaps a lower time frame and a retest of the daily pivot if it breaks to the downside. What I prefer is, let me have a look. Euro CAD. That's something that I have been looking at, but now it's past the weekly R2, so it's less likely that I'm going to find an entry. If I do, it's going to be at reduced risk, but it looks okay. Ideally, I would like price to come back down to this level here. So that's really what I'm waiting for, around about this level. And then I'll be looking for longs on Euro CAD, Euro GBP. Euro GBP I am bullish on because we've had that smash through the monthly pivot, but ideally I would like to see price come back down to the monthly pivot and test it, and then give me a long entry from there, because it just gives me a better reward to risk trade before reaching any of these previous highs. And again, a previous high would not normally concern me at all, but in these markets I really want to only be taking trades where I see at least an opportunity to get to break even before asking price to jump through hoops. Euro yen, that's something else that I am bullish on. If I look at the daily time frame, I've got higher lows and higher highs. Prices smashed through these previous highs over here and up through the monthly pivot yesterday. So this is something that I'm looking for long opportunities on. This one I'd really like to see come down, test the daily pivot. I've got this previous high here, which forms a little bit of a horizontal level here of what was resistance, could now become support. So that is something that I'm waiting for and looking out for. If that retracement happens, I'll be looking to get into something there. Euro dollar is something else that I am still bullish on. I was talking about this with Ash last week. It broke through the kind of symmetrical triangle pattern that it was stuck at for the whole of June, pretty much. And so now that is heading quite nicely to the upside. And again, it's just going to be a case of drilling down the time frames and finding something that works. 15-minute time frame just does not work for me at the moment because this is just sideways. So again, it's probably going to be a case of looking at this, probably the 4-hourly for me has to retrace in order to get a decent entry, and it probably has to retrace all the way down to this horizontal level here. So it's a little way off now. If it does manage to head back to the upside and break out of this sideways pattern on the 15-minute, then I will start trading on the lower time frames. But I've got to see good cyclicity first before I will do that. So that's on my watch list for long. Pound Aussie, I'm kind of a little bit bored of Pound Aussie now. I have been bearish just for this period here, but this level here, this level of support is too much for me to want to trade through on a lower time frame. So price has got to get through that level if I'm going to be further interested in that. Pound
Chloe,
Swiss,
just before you go any further,
yeah,
a heap of questions for you. And I'm going to start at the bottom, and I don't know if you've done Euro Kiwi because I just had to do something else and wasn't paying too much attention at the time. But Helen's wanting to know about Euro Kiwi. You've got any thoughts?
Euro Kiwi. Wanting to know anything specific, any time frame that she's looking at, or
what you think?
Just what I think about it. All right. So Euro Kiwi, for me, it's not one that I looked at because it's not one that I actually can determine a direction based on the daily time frame. I would say that it looks pretty sluggish down here, and it's pulled back pretty strongly from that level. So all the bars that it took to get down to this level, it's got back up pretty much to the top of this range in half the time. So for me, I'd like to see it headed back towards the monthly pivot, and a test of the monthly pivot could be a decent opportunity to trade if you are that way inclined. For me, there's not an awful lot of point me looking at this on the lower time frames, because on the daily time frame it could come up to the monthly pivot, but I can't assume it's going to go further than that. Therefore, you know, if I look at a 4-hourly or an hourly, I don't have much space here, and there is plenty of resistance in the way. So I can't trade that long. I can't trade it short because price action currently is bullish, and I don't have a level to trade it short from. I don't have a reason to trade it short. There are no time frames here really where it is trending to the downside either. Yes, it is interacting with the daily pivot, but unless I've got something on the daily time frame that strongly pushes me in one direction or another from the daily pivot, then I can't really trade that. So I'm sorry, I can't really give much more of an opinion than that, other than if price does bounce at this monthly pivot, which it does look like it could. If we just look at more price action here, there's a lot of resistance over here. There's a horizontal level there. We've got a bunch of resistance, not exactly at the monthly pivot level, but there is some resistance there. Definitely some support over here as well. So around this kind of area would make sense for price to turn around if it is going to turn around back to the downside. So it makes sense to keep an eye on this and just see whether it's going to turn around either at the monthly pivot or shortly afterwards. Once that has happened, then I will consider trading on the lower time frames back down to the bottom of this range. But until
Happy
I get
days.
something that gives me some proper direction on the daily, I can't really trade it.
Okie doke. Now, you did go through EuroCAD. One, was that analysis on EuroCAD from Chloe good enough? And then, Chloe, for you, on lower time frames, do you trade market execution or limit order?
Always limit order.
Yep.
Oh, sorry,
And
stop order. It's always either a buy stop or a sell stop.
Going to say you have changed your ways.
No,
I don't think
sorry,
I've ever seen you trade a limit
I
order.
was just repeating parrot fashion, but no, it's I'm always trading a buy stop or a sell stop.
Alan, hello to you. Chloe got in all the CADs before the news from Helen. Lots of CAD news from Sanjay. Yes, there is. I've actually got an order on EuroCAD, and I'll go through that in a minute as well. From Sino, that's to me. Helen's telling you that she gets hungry at 2 a.m. or she got hungry at 2 a.m. I assume when you were being a mother, Helen, and you got hungry at 2 a.m. It seems to happen. CAD Swiss sell on H4. I'm not sure if that's directed at you or me, Chloe, but if you want to have a look at CAD Swiss.
CAD Swiss sell on H4. Yes. Yeah, I did go through that. So
you did? Right. Okay.
For me, I just have to wait for this candle to close and then take a decision based on that.
Everybody's aware that there's news coming. Is that going to affect you?
If I'm trading on the higher time frames, so daily time frame, 4-hourly time frame, it's not really going to affect me, although I won't place a trade actually when the news is coming out. Lower time frames, if I'm trading on the 15-minute time frame or something like that, then absolutely I don't really want to be trading from probably an hour before the news. On a 15-minute time frame.
I'm a dope, Helen, aren't I? I really am a dope. Helen put in I just read the question, and I went completely the 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Helen was saying that, I'll read it again, if I can find it. It's gone. Helen. Oh, no, there we go. Chloe, that what I was dreaming, but hunger at 2 a.m. seems to happen. Now, immediately I assumed that Helen was getting hungry at 2 a.m., but no, it wasn't Helen. It was the baby getting hungry at 2 a.m.
Oh, I see.
I'm a goose, Helen, aren't I? I'm an absolute goose.
Well, I can tell you I'm constantly hungry these days. I think I spent so many months not eating anything that now I'm making up for lost time.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm back into my food. Yeah, back into my food.
What's the biggest urge?
I don't really have cravings as such, to be honest. The only craving I have had throughout has been oranges. And especially at the peak of lockdown, I had this irrational fear of running out of oranges because it was the only thing I wanted to eat. So every time I managed to get an online delivery slot with the supermarket, I would buy like 30 oranges and stash them away in the fridge.
There you go.
But yeah, that's it. No other crazy cravings.
Okay, yes. I think we're just about done. Do I think that I've done that one? What candle am I on in the trade pound US dollar just now? That'll be the hourly chart, Dennis, and we're actually trailing on an hourly as well. I'll just quickly go through it so there's no misconceptions. So here's the trade. We take the last 1 hour last 3 1-hour candles prior to London session, and that is our range that we're trying to break. So the low of the range is the low of the lowest candle, and in this case it's that one. We place a short order underneath that candle by 10 pips, and we use a stop loss of the high of the the high of the 3 bar range in this case, which is that one, and we put our stop loss 15 pips above the high of that candle. That also becomes the entry for the buy, which in this case is at DR2, and a dreadful place to get into the market. But as I said, we're not adding any filters to this. It's simply a breakout scenario. And I should be sharing screen to do this. I'll just quickly go through this, Chloe, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So the last three bars of, last 3 hourly bars of London's pre-London session, I'll get there. Slow down, Jeff. That one, and that one. And we place our stop order short or our stop sell underneath that bar there by 10 pips because it's the low of the 3-bar range. And we put our stop loss for the short 15 pips above the high of that 3-bar range. That then becomes the stop loss for the short, and then we reverse it. So if we're going long, that becomes our entry for the long, and this short entry becomes our stop loss for the long. Once we are triggered, now we're in a different phase of this beta test, right? We're now trailing on an hourly bar instead of a 15-minute bar, which is what we were doing previously. Now we're going to analyze all of this data, and we're starting with the 15-minute ones. We won't be doing it this week. Actually, I might wait now until we come back in August, because it'll only be me for this week and next week, and then Ash, I'll have a break, and then I'll be back in August, and we can just start again. So we'll just start again in August, and we'll start that analysis process of all the data that we've got on those 15-minute things and see if we can turn it into a strategy. That'll be the plan. So that is the answer to your question, Dennis. I think hourly bars, and I think I've got everything else covered unless there's something new. And yes, I got the screen in the long run. Helen's out of pound CAD with take profit and soon be out of Aussie CAD with take profit, I hope. Helen. Now, I'll very quickly have a look at the 30-minute candles to see if there's anything there of interest. And the euro looks to be back on fire at the moment. Now, I'm a skeptic, I've got to say, at this level. As I have said for the last goodness knows how long, 113.60 to 114 is a danger zone for euro dollar, and we're pretty much at that level. If it gets through it, then happy days, away she goes. But I'll be waiting for a retest of that level before I look to trade it long. I certainly won't be trading long at this point in time. I have reserves on the strength of the euro, not against the US dollar, however, because I'm an extreme bear on the US dollar. And this goes back to a question that we were asked a little bit earlier as well. What about the dollar index? What are my thoughts on the dollar index? Well, here's the thing, and I'll go to that chart now. And the dollar index we've been looking at for quite some time for good reason, because I thought we were in an excellent position to take advantage of. Why is my dollar index chart gone? That's pretty ordinary. It's building, it's building, it's building. Getting there? Righto. Just make it full screen and share it. Screen number, that one. Okay, so the dollar index, and I'm on a 15-minute chart here, and I never do that. Let's go to a daily chart. But you can see what it's doing on the 15-minute chart. It has almost broken through this crucial level here, which is the 96 handle, right? And what we were anticipating was on the monthly, so it doesn't really matter which chart, but we were looking at it on, actually we're probably looking at it on the weekly chart, I think, from memory. We were looking at the 98 handle. Oh, we weren't. Must have been the daily. Yeah. Okay. Daily and maybe monthly and week. I don't know. Anyway, on the daily chart, we were looking at a very strong level through here, which had confluence of all sorts of different lines. And that coincided with the 98.18, I think it was, the level that I was looking for. And we didn't quite make it. We barely made, in fact, we didn't quite make 88. And as I think it was you, Sanjay, actually pointed this out, there was certainly someone in the room. When we did get very near to 98, we hit this trend line. And we haven't looked back since. And if we can get through here, then I would suggest that we're definitely looking at the 94s. And I don't think the dollar's got much hope after that, to be fair. But that is not now. And now what I see is that strong level that we're at, right, which is the 96 handle. So am I expecting it to crash through that without support? No, I am not. And that's why I couldn't possibly go long, not only euro dollar, but just about anything against the dollar until we break the resistance that coincides with this support, right? And then retest it. So I'm looking for a break and retest here if I am to trade against the US dollar. But what I do see clearly is, let me just drag this across a little bit. What I do see clearly is that strong support level that we're at and the possibility, no, I'll call it a probability, of going back to that trend line. Now, at what level? There's a little bit of a confluence there around about the 96.43 mark, as I've got it on my chart. So that's my opinion of the dollar index at the moment. That is what I see, and that's what I'll be looking to trade. Well, that's certainly my bias at the moment. So it's not short the dollar at the moment, but if we do get that pullback to here, then again we can look to short the dollar or buy euro dollar, Aussie dollar, pound dollar, whatever you want to do. But at the moment, that's the situation that I'm at, and I certainly don't want to buy euro dollar at this price. That was a long way around saying what do I think about the dollar index at the moment, but it's pretty clear to me what I need to do, and I need to wait for this bounce if it's to come, and take advantage of that when it's the case. Now, Sino, Aussie Kiwi, sorry mate, I did see that message earlier. What do we do? Do we panic? Or no, we don't panic. That didn't solve a thing ever. And what we do in this case, as I said yesterday, when we were down here somewhere, I said we're halfway between entry and stop loss. If you wanted to reduce your risk on this trade, I would take half off at that point. Now, that's entirely individual and up to you how you want to deal with that. But I always say at the time when we go into these trades that, and we generally scale them, I scale them in 1/4%, 0.5%, 1%, and we risk 1/4% on this Aussie Kiwi. Now, that ain't a whole big deal. So I'm not, well, I hate losing, right? Everybody hates losing, but we haven't lost yet. Something's happened to the Kiwi. I understand that. And I don't know what it is because I've been away, as you know. I haven't caught up with the news. So I've got no idea what's happened to the Kiwi. But for some reason, the Kiwi has faltered, and that's something up with which we must put. But if you look at what's actually going on here, we had a range. We had 3 little Indians, which always telling me that we're going to break to the low side. And I don't expect this to go right to the bottom, but what I do expect it to do is go to a support level, which is probably in this vicinity, around about 2 months ago's monthly pivot. And that's why I thought there was plenty of opportunity here to get profit in the bank before that. And if it did go back to here, then we're going to get a big result out of it. Now, something has changed, and I understand that. But the cycle hasn't changed. We've still got lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, potential lower high that we don't have yet formed, I'll grant you. But that's still the case. Now, of course, we're not going to know if that remains the case until we probably hit something a little bit more substantial than this level here. And that's probably going to be the monthly pivot and probably that former trade line. And that's why my stops are still at that level. Otherwise, I probably would have taken something off the table when we went back so violently against us. I think, in midstream trading is a very dangerous thing. You need to evaluate your risk, pardon me, before you enter the trade, rather than say, well, okay, it's gone against me. Now what do I do? It's a case of, okay, I'm willing to risk 0.25% on this trade, and my stop loss is there for a reason, and it's because I'm protected by the monthly pivot and this former trend line. So that's my answer to the question, is I was always aware that we have a risk of getting taken out here, but the risk was extremely low in my humble opinion. It's getting greater. I fully admit that. And if I lose, I lose, and nobody wants to. But we've still got the opportunity to hit this resistance level and go on with the job, or even here where we are now. So I apart from what's happened fundamentally, and I have no idea what that is, that's my position. I won't change a thing. Can we short if tests and break above and go below that pivot above and trade line 2 on Aussie Kiwi? Hang on, Shukri. Can we short if tests and break above this line here, this trend line, or the monthly pivot? I'm not sure which you're talking about, but this line actually doesn't exist anymore. And the reason is because it's been violated too many times. And I've got it on my chart. Why? It's actually on a weekly chart. It's still on my chart because I was looking at this false break scenario. So we've gone underneath, come back, and that protected us in the first instance, but it's no longer valid. So I should take it off my chart. Confluence of both. Yeah, look, as I said, this is no longer a valid trade line because it has been violated too many times. Once it's violated twice in my book, it's no longer reliable. But I'm hoping it is, I've got to say. I'd be looking at another trade line at this point, not that one. So this has got to actually go. So that'll clear that. There is no confluence there now, except old confluence, which is unreliable. Swee, seems like we had double cross on Euro Swiss 1 hour break. Okay, have a look at that. Aussie Kiwi DWR tomorrow, maybe. Oh, Daily Wave Rider. Okay. Don't know. Not in my my repertoire, I'm afraid. All right, I'm up to date. Got to have a look at Euro Swissy on the 1 hourly chart. Chloe, I'm soaking up some time here. You okay to hang around?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. You go
okay,
ahead.
Cool. Awesome. 1 hour break monthly pivot pending retest. Okay, here's the thing. Here's what a double cross looks like. And the hourly chart doesn't give it to me, but the 4 hourly chart did. That's a double cross. So you've got a decisive bar crossing the monthly pivot and a decisive bar double crossing the monthly pivot. So this is not a trade to be looking short. If you're trading a double cross here, you're looking to trade this long. But am I looking to trade this long? Look, I absolutely see only 2 possible reasons why not. And one is that you're at DR1, so you're trading straight into a resistance level. The other is we still haven't had a test of the daily pivot. That said, as you know, it's one of my favorite plays. And it is the first one. So if you wanted to risk a little bit on it, I don't see a problem with that. bear in mind you are trading away from an untested daily pivot. So what may happen is if you trade the double cross and you put your stop loss where it would normally go underneath that bar there, underneath the double cross bar, you really have got a strong chance during this day that price will maybe go your way and go into maybe DR2 even, and then smash back and hit the daily pivot, or even come back towards it and take you out. So that's a bit risky in my humble opinion at this point. There's a double cross. There's another one there. See, one there, and you'd be trading that short. So we're always trading against the momentum of the previous bar. Now it's clear. Yep, you got it, Shukri. That's it. Aussie Kiwi daily wave rider tomorrow. Seems like so. Swee, is that clear? So the double cross is actually 2 bars, consecutive bars. We have to go bang bang, and nothing else will do. So daily chart might be interesting. If we were to come across there and back on Thursday, then different story. Sorry, if we were to go that, no, we still can't do it. We'd have to come back the other way. So I don't see an opportunity to go short as a double cross. 3 little Native Americans, more culturally sensitive. A rename would be good, Jeff. You know what? I hate PC. PC just gives me the absolute willies. And if anybody wants to call me a white Australian, I'm okay with it. I don't give a toss, or an SH1T, because that's what I am. So if I have to change who that person is, then it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. 3 redskin. Oh no, you can't do that. Definitely can't do that. But I think 3 little Indians, that's okay, isn't it? Or aren't you allowed to call them Indians anymore? I've never met one. Or maybe I have, just didn't know it. So, yeah, no double cross on Euro Swissy on the hourly chart at the moment. That doesn't mean, of course, that you haven't got the direction right. It just means that the double cross is not a trade right now, unless you're going long, that is. How about X? Yeah. 3 little X's. Why not? I didn't go through the 30-minute charts fully, did I? Okay, I was going to tell you, and I hope this plays out the way that I was looking at it. This is dollar CAD, right? Now, I'm not like a lot of people, and I'm sure you guys have noticed that, but it is and as Helen said before, if Chloe's into the CAD pairs, happy days. But I noticed, Helen, that you have closed your positions on the CAD, and that's perfectly acceptable, perfectly fine, don't have an issue with it. But my way of thinking is to get into those pairs and make them free. So in other words, get into a free trade where you can't be harmed. And when I say can't, inverted commas, can't be harmed, because of course you can be harmed because of slippage and widening spreads. That's the beast, and that's the shame of it all. But if you're a fair way from the market when news is delivered and you are free trading, you've got a strong chance of getting a very, very big result out of a potentially small result. Now, you're still risking what you've got on the table at that time, of course you are, but that could turn into something quite substantial. So that's why I'm more than happy to be in a free trading position when news is coming on. In fact, it's what I try to do. It's something I actually aim to do. And EuroCAD, I have an order on that as well today. It's not going to trigger, but awesome. I love risk averse, Helen. Conservative, you like me. But I think news is a very strong opportunity if you're free trading. Slippage occurs, gapping, stop loss. Does trade close automatically? It depends on your broker, I think, Crystal, to be fair. I've been in both positions. I've been slipped 45 pips on one occasion, and I was still in the position beyond my stop loss. But I have also been slipped a small amount of pips, nothing substantial. When I say small, 10, 12 pips, something like that. And was closed. So yeah, good question. I really can't answer that definitively. I don't think there is an answer to it definitively. There should be rules around that, but sadly, both has occurred. Trading news is like a game of two up. Dennis, we have tried many methods of trading the news over the years, and the only reason it is suicide, in my mind, and my mind is always based on experience, most of it expensive experience, is that the slippage is what kills you. And if you could eliminate the slippage, then you'd have a far better chance of being in a winning position. And we've tried many methods of doing it, but slippage has always been the issue, always. And, no matter what the broker tells you, it is a license for them to print money, because there's no rules or regulations around how wide they can put their spreads. In the fine print, you'll always see that that's an issue, and it's a bloody big one. I've got to go around the 30-minute charts. I keep saying that and don't do it. Pound. If I'm a pound trader today, what am I looking to do? Run the other direction. Again, we've got, a triple top, lower high, big lower low. This could be a big lower high based on that one, but this is iffy. I think maybe this sequence has got a little bit to go, and maybe we have another look at this high. I don't know. Such is the nature of the dollar and the dollar index that we had a look at earlier, that I'd be favoring this to go short before it goes long again. Maybe daily pivot test, guys. We can have a look at that, but there's nothing there now that I can trade. I haven't got a confluence area, so it's just guesswork at the moment. A little scalp down to there, maybe. Yep, not a scalper, but I'd need to see a trade line, right? So a trade line through here, break underneath, retest, then we've got a trade. But at the moment, I don't. Are we doing pound breakout? Yeah, we are, Alan. It's a new system. We're trading it on an hourly trail at the moment. So same parameters, 3 1-hour candles, and the high and the low of those, 15 above the high, 10 below the low. And then we trail on an hourly chart once we get triggered. So pound, not yet. Kiwi's in trouble. Well, sorry. Kiwi's not in trouble. We're in trouble on the Kiwi. We've taken profit at this, and I've moved my stops to 65, 68. So that'll be a winner, but it won't be anywhere near the winner I wanted it to be, unless the weekly pivot helps us out here and turns this in the other direction. And this will be the same as Aussie Kiwi, I believe, because we've got still lower low, lower high, lower low. We're looking for that lower high. That looked like it may have been it, but they're certainly having another crack at it at the moment. Let's hope we can hang on here. Would I like to trade it in any 30-minute scenario? No, we're hanging on to the weekly pivot here for dear life. We've got an untested daily pivot. There's every reason to think that this can go short in a short-term scenario. So exactly the same, and this would be a better trade, to be honest. If we got to here, DR2, and not to here, it'd be far better, and then came underneath the confluence of weekly pivot and trade line, retested it, then you've got a pretty decent old trade on your hands. I reckon that's the one I'd be looking for. Kiwi dollar short off that false break scenario. If we can manage to set that up, that'd be pretty cool. Dollar CAD we've spoken about, but we didn't get to the end of it. So we had a setup here on dollar CAD, but I didn't want to trade it because we were at the low of the day, and that may or may not be a good thing that we stayed out. I don't know. It looks like it wants to go short. There's no question. You'd have to be taking profit down here, but I can't trade that because I'm trading at DS1 and I'm trading also at the low of the day. It doesn't work for me. If I was to trade this today, where would I look to trade it? And as we know, there's news. So I'd still be looking for longs, and maybe the weekly pivot's a way to pick that up. The closer you get to the news, the harder it is, of course, because the market just tends to go into a bit of a snooze, and then there's a little bit of an effort prior to the news, perhaps, if they look to position themselves. But I really don't see anything there that I can grab hold of at the moment. We've spoken about the euro, spoken about the Aussie. Can't go long, can't go long. Dollar yen. I was going to talk about dollar yen, wasn't I? Okay, we've got, and I said I've got a long setup here. I keep getting little signals like approach, pullback, approach, pullback, approach, pullback, approach, pullback. This is the biggest of them, and therefore may be the best of them. I won't tell you what delivery that is. That's the delivery people. I'm in isolation, of course, having come back to Tasmania from the mainland. And when I got home, there was no wine in the fridge. Thank goodness they deliver wine. 38 pips into 12. It doesn't quite work. And DR1's there. So I'm going to say no to it. But yeah, this really is giving me some hints here that this is going long. I need to wait for something better though. Maybe that better becomes, I don't know, a false break of that. No, it's ugly. No, I've got no clues at the moment, guys. And if I haven't got a setup now, I'm generally not going to have a setup before the news. So just move on. Euro yen. I don't think I've got any opportunities there either, although I do like where we are. So later on, and you know, a lot of my trades come in the US session. There's no question about that. And later on, I'll be looking, if this doesn't break out, then I'll be looking at a trade line through here. And again, a trade down to take profit at the daily pivot, take profit at the monthly pivot, maybe get out of it at the monthly pivot. And that will be that trade if it happens. That was the other one I was looking at, Euro Aussie. And we spoke about this earlier. And could we trade it here? Answer no. But the closer this gets to the daily pivot, the more I like it. Because I agree, the bias for me here is definitely short. I would definitely like to see price get up to here, and then on a 30-minute chart, maybe again in US session, if we've gone to there, we might have a little confluence area, daily pivot, trade line coming through here, and we could definitely play a false break off that, and we've got some good targets down here as well. So that's pretty much the theme. I haven't got, and I won't go any further. Because I know Chloe is probably very, very keen to have some breakfast or even a cup of tea or something of that nature. And we'll leave it at that. I think everything's the same. We are at or have gone to or through or turned around from resistance levels here on a lot of these pairs. So the ones that have turned around, I'll be looking for false breaks of resistance trade lines. The one that haven't, I'll be looking for things like this, things like a bearish engulfing bar. Then I'll be looking for a lower high. So if we did get this lower high at the daily period, I reckon this would be a good trade, really do. So the Kiwi, very keen on the Kiwi short. If we can get above here and then back underneath it and retest the confluence, I think that's the P for now. That could happen before the US session, and that's probably going to be the quickest one. Is it the port wines? No, it's actually not, Dennis. It's just the Pinot guy, but he's okay. And he'll keep me okay after US session. It'll be, well, maybe halfway through US session. Show us the Kiwi. I'll do that quickly, and then we'll go back to Chloe for her summary. What was it? Kiwi. Where am I? Kiwi dollar. Okay, Kiwi dollar 4-hour chart. What was the setup for the short at 65.55? I'm pretty sure it was a double cross of the weekly pivot and the daily pivot. Yes, it was. But it was also in concert with a genuine slingshot setup, which is this one. And those of you who've done my slingshot introductory course will recognize that. I'll go a little bit tighter. Where we've got a perfect support trade line coming through here. Then we've got a break of it and a retest of it. And we've got this little number here, which really is an upside. Well, it's a buzzard really, isn't it? Or is that the cat? Can't remember what I think they'll call that the cat. But it's clearly, and I don't think it's in the candle patterns that I've already been through with those guys, but it's a candle pattern that I do like. And you'll see every time that I get a bar pull back away from a trade line that's just been broken, I'm going to very, very seriously look at trading that short. So that was the setup. Very much a case of double cross of the weekly and daily pivots. And that's what a double cross looks like, guys. Big decisive bar back the other way. Perfect. That's what I love to see. Okay, hope that helps. Helen, laugh out loud and always keep emergency wine in fridge. Got to drop some names for us. Wine names? Sure thing. I do have emergency supplies, but they're like $70 a bottle. And I don't quaff $70 wine every day. That's why I had to get the dude out. US dollar, yes, now below 96. Went through that shukri earlier, and I believe it's got to close below 96 before I get excited. Well, I don't want to get excited. I want it to come back. I want it to come back to the trend line that starts back in April that Sanjay pointed out to us only a week or so ago. Righto, Chloe, I've spoken for far too long, as I always do, and my apologies for holding you up. Is there a summary from you, and is there anything else we need to look at?
No worries, Jeff. Never far too long from you. I guess I will just grab the screen and have an update on the top things that I was watching. First of all, dollar yen. Unfortunately, it hasn't retraced yet. I was hoping for a sooner retracement than this. I was hoping for it to just come below the weekly pivot for a couple of bars, but remain reasonably close and then retrace back up. It hasn't done that, but that doesn't mean I won't be trading it. It just means I have to wait longer. So that's that one. It just hasn't retraced yet. Got to just wait for the right time and the right price action. I suppose the two most interesting things for me are still Aussie yen, because I do have this low test bar here that could potentially be tradable. The thing about this is I'm already in a trade on Aussie yen and I'm not planning to scale in. So if I wasn't already in a trade, then that could be an option, but it's not really an option. The other thing I don't like is trading directly beneath this horizontal level of resistance. So I'm going to have to let that one go. The Aussie dollar as well, that one's taken off. But again, I'm already actually in two positions on this particular currency pair. So there's not really any need for me to scale in. But if I were to be planning to scale in, then I would be looking at this point for entry opportunities on the 15-minute time frame, probably, because I'm starting to see cyclicity return. I've got at least a higher high above this point. What else did I want to just summarize? CAD Swiss, that is still heading to the downside. This 4-hourly bar hasn't closed yet, so of course I can't take a decision there. But the other alternative is to keep an eye on this daily pivot on a lower time frame. So 15-minute time frame it probably will be that I'm looking at, but price has so far come back up to the daily pivot. I'm just looking for some kind of indication that it's going to turn around and continue downwards. So that's something that's fairly high up the watch list. The euro pairs have gone, I think, for me. EuroCAD has taken off. So in terms of the lower time frames, that was one that I was waiting for that to come down at least to the daily pivot, if not preferably this horizontal level here that I had marked in, and it just didn't happen, unfortunately. So I've missed that one because I was waiting for it to pull back further. And euro dollar, where is euro dollar? That one's gone as well. Just wait for my chart to catch up. That one's gone as well.
Looks strong, doesn't it? Really does look
It
strong.
does, yeah, it does. I mean, it could come back and there might be an opportunity later on, but for this morning, I think that's probably it for me on that one. It's gone too far too quickly for me to consider jumping in anywhere. So that's pretty much it. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier was gold. I have been keeping an eye on gold, and it has now closed above this level. So we're not out of the woods. There is still resistance up here, potentially just at that point there. But I am bullish on gold and willing to take a few risks on gold, I'd say, because it's not moving. Again, it's not moving in its usual pattern, I'd say. And what I've noticed is it does tend to kind of range and put in these lower highs and be a bit messy. And then when it goes, it really goes. So it's worth trying to get in perhaps earlier than I normally would. So I'm not necessarily going to hold this level against me. And I will be considering getting into gold at some point, just waiting for a retracement of some sort to get into that now that it's broken through this level here. So that's pretty much me done for this morning, I think, Jeff.
Mate, thank you so much for popping in. I know it's very early in the morning for you and it's not your time of day, but it's very much appreciated. Really do. Thank you very much indeed for it.
No worries.
Thank you, Helen. It's wonderful to be back, I've got to say. A little bit sad in many ways that I had to leave my mum, but that's life. You have to get on with your life as well. We will catch you guys tomorrow. Those of you who are in the US session, we'll catch you. And I'm going to trade the CAD news, by the way, in the US session. We will hang around for that to happen. And if you're interested in having a look at that, then be there or be square. Chloe, I'll catch you. Have we got original show this week? I'm out of kilter.
I believe original show was last week.
Oh, was it?
I don't think we have it this week. Yeah, it's next week, original show. Last week and next week. So nothing tomorrow for original show.
Happy days. Then I will not see you tomorrow, but I will see you next. Do you do Mondays or Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
I can do Tuesdays. Probably not Mondays, but we'll catch up over the weekend about it and we'll work things out.
Happy days. All right, mate. Thanks a lot once again.
All right.
And
no worries,
thank you,
Jeff.
everyone else. We will
Good
catch
to have you back.
Cheers, mate. And cheers to everyone else who was saying very similar things. Much appreciated. We will catch you guys down the track in the very near future. Bye-bye for now.